So welcome everyone to our Process Automation 101 webinar. This is the first one we're running of this. We plan to do it every month. This is kind of our basic level training designed to help get people familiarized with process automation. And whether you've seen it before or you're just starting to use it and you want to get up to speed on some of the components and features we have available. So I'll quickly introduce myself here. I'm Matt Moulton. I'm a technical trainer on the PagerDuty University team, and I'm hosting this session from Vancouver, Canada. PagerDuty University, that's our customer training program. So we run a lot of sessions like this for obviously PagerDuty, but also process automation now. And we also have our e-learning platform available for a lot more modular and deeper dives into these topics if that's what you're looking for. So I'll provide you a link as well to our site at the end of the training here if you're looking for more content. All right, so for today's session, here's what we'll be covering. First, we're going to go over an overview of what's process automation and where it sits in your digital operations, as well as what goals it can help you achieve. We'll also go through the components and user personas that we've seen many customers use so far. So next, we'll do a quick demo of setting up the most basic building block, which is the project, as well as some simple best practice configurations you can start out with. The next logical follow-up will be a demo of creating and configuring a simple job so that we can see some real results from running something. Then we'll jump into how to integrate process automation with another external tool. In this case, we're going to use PagerDuty, and we're going to see how to make a simple two-way interaction. Lastly, we'll talk about security and some of the important features that you should be aware of. All right, so what is process automation and why should we use it? So here's kind of a graphic that looks a little complicated, but it shows where process automation sits in the PagerDuty Operation Cloud. This has four main capabilities right now. We have our AI Ops, incident response, which is something we're most known for, and now process automation as well. So process automation kind of extends us into automating those diagnostics and remediations, and customers see fewer employees interrupted and resolution time shortened when using this. So that's kind of where process automation comes into the picture here. So whether or not you do use PagerDuty as your incident management system, your incident response flow is likely going to look similar to this. So from left to right here, those events, alerts, and other data, it comes in from your applications, and then it gets routed to either a human response or a machine response. So that's where process automation comes in at the bottom there. With our integrations, you can configure events that come in to trigger automated actions directly, potentially resolving an incident before it's even noticed. So automation also works hand in hand with the human response, allowing your support engineers to run automated actions they might not otherwise have the access or skill to execute. So talking about that lack of access or skill to execute, that's what we call the automation gap. Automation is fairly common among many different tools these days, but it still has this glaring issue where teams are too scared to create complex automations for fear of giving too much access, or perhaps despite being an automation, it might still require a fair amount of technical knowledge to know how and when to execute it. So process automation provides the ability to safely and securely delegate these automations. It can give you the tools you need to develop automations that have proper safeguards, while still allowing the users who can benefit from executing these free use of them. As one example, technical responders to an incident might be able to execute actions such as running a code or rebooting a server, and they can use these to resolve the incident without needing to reach out to SMEs. That can save valuable downtime on your service. All right, so let's also give a quick history lesson for anyone who might know process automation by its previous name, Rundeck. So PagerDuty acquired Rundeck a few years ago, And we now have 2 enterprise level offerings available. These are Runbook Automation and Process Automation. At the current stage of development, there's almost full feature parity between these 2 offerings. The primary difference is that Runbook Automation is our cloud offering on the PagerDuty Operations Cloud. So this means PagerDuty hosts and supports this for you. While Process Automation is an on-premise application, installation is done on your own servers. So because of that, some more granular configuration options are available to you, given that you have direct access to the file system and database. So I'm going to generally refer to the application as process automation. So know that while I use that term often, most things in this session refer to both. All right, so just a quick note on how you can get started on these. We mentioned Runbook Automation is our cloud offering, and we do have a free trial available. If you aren't currently a customer, you can check this out at the following link. I'm going to drop into the Zoom chat. It's also on the screen here. So for process automation, though, you'd need to install this on your own server. Details can be found in our documentation. So you can see that on the screen as well. I'll also drop that into the Zoom chat here. For what platforms it's available on, for Linux, most recent distributions are likely to work. We also support versions of Windows Server and Mac OS X. So most things you're running already will probably work here. Details on our fully supported systems can be found in the documentation, though. And we also have a great professional services team that can offer support when required on getting you set up. So if you're interested, we have a contact form on the first link under process automation there. I'll drop that in as well. All right, so if you're looking to get started with us, that's where you can start out there. Now, why would you actually get started? Let's cover some basic use cases on how process automation might work for you. So one basic use case might be, let's say, you have us set up and you receive a disk space reaching capacity alert on one of your servers. Maybe your users notice a logs folder was overwhelmed by a report that ran recently after a big change. Then they can run an action that clears out and archives the logs. And that wouldn't need any SMEs to be contacted. You'd be able to resolve the issue immediately, preventing any downtime from occurring on your server, waiting for admins to help out. And who knows, maybe the admin who can help out, maybe he's sick or on vacation. We don't need to bother him over something simple like this. So you can use that automated action, just clear out those logs, archive them, easily solves it. The second use case you might have, maybe one of your services goes down. It's not uncommon for that service. So, and you know it's generally just fixed by a simple restart. You have process automation set up, and it can automatically try restarting immediately after the incident's reported. And this would bring up the service before any customers notice it went down, even before anyone in your organization was able to respond to the incident. So you can even set it up so that it also logs some diagnostics for you to check after the fact, of course, by your leisure, since the problem's already resolved. I see a question, are there stats on how much time is saved? I'm pretty sure there are. I don't have them prepared for right now, so I'll get back to you on that one. Unless anyone in here is able to help out with that. All right, so to get into a bit more of the technical aspect here, let's cover the basic components. So the basic components in process automation, we have, of course, the overall process automation application itself. That needs to run on one of your servers or our server if you're using our cloud. Then you have projects. Projects are essentially like folders or directories. These help you organize if you have many different applications you're managing through process automation. So you can separate those into different projects. Then we have jobs. We can see jobs are contained within the context of a project. And these jobs run actions upon other application servers. We call those nodes. So nodes that's our last piece here. That's the name for the other application servers which Process Automation is connecting to and executing actions upon. So we're almost at our demo section here. So if these aren't really super clear right now, we're going to look at them inside Process Automation in just a bit here. All right, so let's also look at some typical user roles. Now, Process Automation doesn't have a defined role system itself, but these are the typical use cases for an individual user persona that we've seen customers have so far. So just note that there's no right way to define access for each of these types of role, but we have some generalized examples if you're not sure where to start. I see a question, are nodes basically API calls? No, so nodes are basically your other application servers, right? So maybe you have an AWS server here, maybe you have like Ansible over here, maybe you have something else running over here. These are just different servers that we can connect to and run jobs on. It might be a bit more clear once I actually make a job for you guys in a couple minutes here. All right, so yeah, like I said, there's no defined roles, so there's no real right way to define that access. It's basically up to you, but we do have some generalized examples to help you start out. The types of personas we typically see, you have your global admins. That's kind of that administrator for your whole process automation environment. You have project admins. They might own and configure settings within a given project. So maybe they're the owner of certain applications that you have. We have job writers. That's going to be your users who are creating jobs, configuring integrations, and maybe writing code. And then you have your job runners. That's just your frontline responders. They're executing these automated actions. So kind of a descending order of complexity here. All right, so like I mentioned, we don't have any strict roles. These permissions for these kind of roles would be set via access control list. So we'll briefly touch on access control list in our final section today, but this is something your admins would generally set up as a first-time setup task for these projects. So users, groups, and ACLs can be created and managed within Process Automation, and they can also be integrated with your existing user systems if you're using Active Directory or something like that. And you can also use SSO to log in through these as well. All right, so we finally made it. Let's look at demoing something in Process Automation itself. Let's create a project. All right, so once you get in, I'm using Runbook Automation here. It's going to look something like this. You may or may not already have projects set up. If you're already with us, you can even follow along if you'd like. Now, to make a new project, I can just click this New Project button here. And you'd fill out any relevant info, for example, project name. This is our new project. You'd probably want to have a much better name than that. You can have a description here. Execution history clean. This is a nice feature. So you can enable this, and then there's a lot of other settings that open up here for you. That kind of helps you remove that outdated job run information. So that can be configured to your liking to balance, logging history versus readability. So for the purposes of our example, we can just skip this. We don't really care if we're logging all of the job running information right now. Execution mode. This is a nice tab if you want to temporarily disable execution of jobs. You can disable execution here. That can be useful for those maintenance windows where you just want to stop scheduled jobs from running temporarily while you're doing some testing or upgrades. You can also, for example, disable execution later if you want to schedule that maintenance window Lots of configuration you can do in there. User interface, that's just some customization. You can set readmes and those banner messages. Default node executor and default file copier, that's something we're not going to touch on today, but you can basically define how process automation is going to communicate with your nodes using this. So you can see we have different options, runner, which we'll cover a little bit later on, SSH, and some other methods here. So if you're interested in defining on how we're actually communicating with your application servers, it's through this. And then the last tab, plugins. This is optional as well, but if I just click this plugin config, we can see by default we have a lot of different integrations here. We have AWS, Datadog, Jira, PagerDuty, ServiceNow. There's a lot more plugins as well that you can get into. And if you're using the on-premise version, you can even develop your own plugins. So a lot of integration we can include here, but for the purpose of our simple project, we can just hit create there. And that's pretty much it. It's just totally basic, has a name, and it's gonna open us up here. So I'm just gonna go into one I have existing. And once you have your new project, it'll just look like this. And there's lots of things you can do on the left here. If we forgot to configure something, we wanna go back to it, it's down here, project settings on the left at the bottom. And we can go to edit configuration, brings us right back to what we were looking at earlier. So projects are pretty basic, as we saw there, but the purpose of a project is to hold jobs, like we said. So now that we have that project, let's make a job inside it so we can actually see something working. All right, so I'm here inside my project. To go to jobs, that's the second tab here. Click into that. I already have some jobs created in this project, but we won't use those. Let's make a new one. So to make a new one, I can use this new job button on the right there. And let's just make a really simple job to start out. We'll do a hello world one. So just call it hello world, pretty basic. Can write a description or add tags if you want for organization, but in this case, we're just hello world. We're going to delete it later. We'll leave it alone. So on the second tab here, workflow, that's where we actually program the job to do what we want. Now, options, that's the first thing listed here. Those are the parameters that we can have our job accept if needed for your use case for this job. But for just a hello world program, we don't really need any user input. So let's skip down to the next one, which is workflow. Now, here is where you add your actual commands. So we do have two main options here, node steps and workflow steps. Now, node steps are going to run once on every node that we execute this job upon. So these are things that will actually run on those remote servers. Workflow steps, this only runs once total during the job run, and it's not necessarily going to go inside one of those nodes directly. Now, for the purpose of our hello world job, we just want to run a simple command. So we're going to use this node step called command, and that's going to execute a command on our remote nodes. All right, so the command we want to run, very simple, just echo hello world. When we save that, and that's it. So we've programmed our job. Very exciting. So the next tab that we have here is nodes and runners. Here we can define which nodes we will execute this job on. Note that we can also set it up so that the job runner chooses which nodes upon job execution. So we don't need to set that up here if we want to leave it open to the user. In this case, let's set it up to run. We can choose which nodes to run this on with this node filter here. This is, you can use regex here, so I'm just going to put dot star. We can see that there's 2 nodes matching because I have 2 nodes set up for my project. And I'm not going to touch anything else here. I will touch this. It says continue running on any remaining nodes before failing this step. So we're just quickly going through this one, but we'll do another example after this, so don't worry if this is we'll go deeper into this here. So for this example, we're just running hello world on 2 nodes, and we're going to keep running even if it fails. We'll see why in a minute here. All right, so we also have other tabs here. We can see schedule. If I click that, I could choose to run this job repeatedly. I could run it on a schedule. It's just hello world, so we won't do that for this one. But you do have a lot of other options here if you want to do that. So I'm just going to create this job. And that's it. All it does is run hello world on 2 nodes. If I want to run it, I just hit this run button over here. And it ran. So for this one, on this node, it seems like it worked. It says all steps okay. Great. On this one, it looks like it failed. So if you get a failure, something useful to do is click into it here, and it'll give you the error message. So in this case, for this node, it says the command failed, and the error message is local executor is disabled. So what that means is that we tried running that echo command on a system we aren't allowed to run commands on. So to solve that, we'd have to, not run on that node, or make sure that we have access to run that on there. So that's basically how you can look into, error checking and success confirmation here for a simple job. Now, it'd be a little disappointing if we ended only seeing a job that runs hello world, right? So fine, let's create another job that actually won't even run on a node. It's going to run using one of our integrations. In this case, we're going to use one that runs with an integration with PagerDuty Incident Response. All right, so just a note, while we're going to show this integration with PagerDuty today, note that there's a ton of great integrations offered in process automation already. And even applications that aren't directly supported, you can work, they're going to work through integrating with an API or just running scripts or whatever else you have to connect with your tools. So the process we're going to go through is effectively the same for any other tool, just replacing the PagerDuty elements with whatever you use at your organization. All right, so our goal here, we're going to create a job that's going to post a note to a PagerDuty incident. This can be useful if you have a diagnostic platform and you want to include some of that information to your incident automatically so that your responders have some background information to work with. So let's go back into our project here. I'm going to delete our hello world job. It was not exciting enough. And let's make a new job. So I'm going to call this Matt PD note. You can make yours more exciting if you'd like. Next, we go to the workflow tab. All right, so this time on the workflow tab of our new job, we're going to use the options. This is because we want to execute an action based on a PagerDuty incident. And to do that, we're going to need to know the PagerDuty incident ID that we want to use so that we're targeting the right one. So let's go add an option here. And we're going to make it a text field. That's totally fine for us. And the option name, we're going to put PD_incident_ID. So note that name for later, as we're going to use it again as a reference. Next, for the, well, that's it for the option. So we're going to save that. Very simple. We just have a text option called PD incident ID. Nothing fancy. All right, so next for the workflow section, we want to go to workflow steps because we're not actually running any commands on remote servers here. We just want to integrate with PagerDuty. So if I search through my workflow steps, maybe I just want to search for PagerDuty. And we can see a lot of integration, a lot of pre-generated actions already appear here. Now, PagerDuty incident note updates an existing incident with the supplied note. That sounds exactly like what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to click on that one. And it's asking for my API key from PagerDuty. So note that I didn't do any pre-work here. There's no current integration between my PagerDuty account and my process automation. So the way it's going to recognize which one to connect to is through the API key. So to get one, we can quickly pop over to PagerDuty and generate it from our user profile. So here's my PagerDuty account. Make sure I'm logged in there. I'm just going to go to my profile. And I'm going to go to user settings. And I'm going to generate an API token. We'll just call this process automation test. So here's my API key. Please don't steal it. Gonna put it right in there. All right, so next it wants my email. I guess I'll give it up there. PagerDuty incident ID. Now it's asking for the incident ID. What should we do? Let's use that option we created earlier and sub in the value here. So the easy way to do this, just type the $ symbol, and you can scroll through all the different options here for variables. At the bottom, we can see options, and I see here option PD incident ID, exactly the one I created. So we're going to sub that in there. All right, so now what do we want to put for the note itself? So this field here, note, that's going to be what we're actually writing to our PagerDuty incident. I have a pre-made one that I'm going to write in here. So I'm just going to copy paste it. It looks kind of jumbled right now, but you'll see what it looks like once we run the job. You can write anything you want in the note, though, and we can also make this more complex, which I'll explain a bit more towards the end of this example. So that's pretty much it. From the process automation side, this job is done. Let's take it for a spin. So I'm going to save that action, and I'm going to create the job. All right, so there's my job. And let's run it. If I hit run now, it says that it failed. Okay. Let me double check. Oh, right. I know why it failed. Let's go back to our job here. I didn't give it a PD incident ID. All right, so we added an option for a PD incident ID, but I have to actually give it one, right? So let's go back to PagerDuty and get that ID. It's kind of a critical step there. Here's an incident that I created previously. Let's just use that one for fun here. Double check I don't have any notes written. Perfect. So you can grab the ID. I know I'm not sharing my address bar, but if you are following along for fun here, in your address bar in your PagerDuty account, in the URL, that's where you'll find that incident ID after you click into one. So I'm going to grab that from the URL and paste it right there. So that's the ID I have for that incident I was looking at. Now let's run the job. Okay, great, it worked. Whew. Okay, so our job worked, but how do we know what happened? Well, it's posting a note to that incident, right? So let's go back to PagerDuty, and I can see right here, that's my note. So it looks like it grabbed some information from our Datadog service, and it shows some monitoring statuses for different services that we have running. And that's without touching the PagerDuty side at all, except for obviously grabbing that ID, it posted this information for our responders. So now they can use this information to handle this incident. All right, so there's just one problem here, though. People working in PagerDuty responding to incidents aren't going to want to log into Process Automation, grab that ID from PagerDuty, and manually run this job, right? So luckily, we can make it even easier for them with just an extra minute of work here. So let's make this relationship two-way. Right now, it's just Process Automation has a job that can be executed on PagerDuty. But if we want to make that more convenient, we can add an automated action from the PagerDuty side that will run a job in Process Automation. So to do that, I'm going to go to Automation here in PagerDuty and go to Automation Actions. Now, if you have nothing set up yet, it'll look like this. So I'm going to add a runner. That's the first thing you need to do. In this case, we're using Runbook Automation, so I'm going to select that one. For our runner name, we'll just call it Automation Test. For our subdomain, that's where our Runbook Automation is actually hosted. So I'll go ahead and grab the URL there. So this is my account. Obviously, for yours, you'd include your own. Now it's asking for a Runbook Automation API key. So just like we did for the other way relationship, we will go ahead and come into Process Automation. If you want to generate an API key, I believe you go up here in the top right and you go to Profile, and you can generate an API key for your user here. So you could do that by clicking where it says User API Tokens. I'd hit that plus button, and I can generate a new token. I already have one generated, so I'll just use my pre-existing one here. And you can add a team as well if you're looking to add some PagerDuty permissions to this. But for this particular action, we'll just go ahead and create the runner. All right, so now we have a runner in our PagerDuty account. But let's go back to Automation Actions. We haven't actually made an action yet. Let's add an action. So we have to select which runner. Obviously, the one we just created is the only one here. We'll hit Next. So now that I've selected that runner, it's showing me a list of all the jobs that my Process Automation API key gives me access to. Now, I used an admin API token from Process Automation. Not exactly the best idea, because now it's showing me every job available in my account. Luckily, I remember the name of my job was Matt PD Note. So let's go ahead and search for that, and I'll select it. So that's the job we just created in Process Automation. It's already showing up here. So that's pretty cool. Let's hit Next. All right. So we can change the name of the action. Maybe I don't want it to be called something stupid like Matt PD Note. Let's call it Datadog Diagnostics, or pull data. Oops, pull Datadog Diagnostics. All right, that sounds a lot more professional, huh? All right, action description. Pulls information from Datadog and posts it to the incident. Select a category. This is diagnostics. Services. We'll put it on our default service, but you can add whichever ones you're working with. And that's it for this piece. Let's go ahead and hit Next. Just some simple descriptions. All right, so here's the only real technical part. We need to pass the incident ID from PagerDuty to Process Automation. Now, earlier we did that by grabbing it from the URL, but nobody wants to do that, right? So we're going to use that. We're going to do that using this arguments field. Now, I'm not sure how to do this, so I'm going to click this Learn More button right under the arguments field. And that hopefully brings us right to our documentation. So you can search around in here however you like. I'm just going to scroll all the way to the bottom because I might already know that there's a helpful one right here. How it says here, how can I set up the automation action with a process automation job that requires passing a PagerDuty incident as a variable? Well, that sounds like exactly what I'm trying to do, so I'll hit expand there. And it tells me I can use this little string to do that, if I can manage to select it. So we have a lot of helpful documentation that can, get you going on this as well if it seems complicated. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in that string that we just found. To explain what this means a little bit, here it says -pd_incident_id. Now, if you remember, that's the name of the option name that I created for process automation. So this here has to be the same name as your option name that you're passing to. This piece here, $PagerDuty.IncidentID, that's a variable that's going to hold the incident ID for the incident that we're currently running this on. So that's kind of what that means. It's going to take that incident ID and it's going to put it into our option. Great. That's all we need. So I'll go ahead and create the action. Okay. So that's it. We're done. Now we can go to our PagerDuty incident again. So it was this one here. And if we go to this Run Actions button, now I can see this one says Pull Datadog Diagnostics. If I go ahead and click on that, it's going to show me it's subbing in that value automatically from the variable, and I'll go ahead and run. And as we can see here, this run right here, that's the one that we just executed. So that's it. As we can see, the output looks the same as if we ran it from process automation directly. So now we have this nice two-way relationship. Both applications are using each other's functions. So we have now PagerDuty going out to process automation and saying, hey, please run this job. Process automation runs that job, and it posts the note back to PagerDuty. Awesome. So the only catch here is that Datadog note that we outputted that you're looking at there. That's a fake note. I just wrote that out manually. But it would be pretty simple to add an extra workflow step in our job. If we come back to our job here, PD note. If we edit that job, go back to workflow here, we can add an additional step. And that step could go out and grab information from Datadog and then hold that in a variable. And then in this note field that we're posting to the PagerDuty incident, we can sub in that real data into the note. Now, we won't do that right now, but it's pretty easy to do that. In fact, that's where we got this example from, is from a job that does do that. All right. So that was how to create a slightly more complex job that integrates with another tool. It's basically the same process for other things as well. Hopefully that gives you a nice demonstration of how you might start out with that. So if everyone's still with me here, this is our last section, security. So we're only going to do a brief introduction of security because this is a big topic and we offer an entire separate training session that goes over this. All right, so the basic thing to note here is that ACLs control all access in process automation. We have a GUI method of creating them, but the text editing method is more robust. These help you create those guardrails that can allow your users to execute those jobs that are beneficial for them, but without giving them too much control. So if you just want to follow along and you're trying to find that, you would go up to this cog in the top right, and it's access control. Now, you may already have some policies created. If I want to click into one here to see what it looks like, I'll edit one of my existing ones. We can see this one's really simple. All it's doing is giving this user read access on a certain project, and it's giving this guy denying him read access on certain projects. So you can see you can make rules both ways. You can You can whitelist things and you can blacklist things. Now, when you create these rules in using the GUI, I can hit new rule here. You see, I can set up a rule this way. Once I do that, if I go to this editor tab, we can see the corresponding text rule is also generated automatically. Now, if you want to edit things, you have to use the text method. And like I said, that's more robust anyway, so it's a lot better to get familiar with setting those up if you're an admin doing this. All right, so we also have one more thing we can look at in here. Once we're at our access control section, this second tab that says access levels, that's a really nice feature we have. Once you already have some policies set up, maybe you're not sure if they're working properly, you can use this to test them. So, for example, I had a user that his name was testman1000 there. And if I select that user, I can see here everything that he has access to. So it looked like in my policy, I had given him read access to every project. And we can see here, that's exactly what he has. He has view rights to everything. And that's all he has. So this is just a good way to test out your policy by checking a specific user or a specific group and seeing what access they're going to have. So it's great for helping you troubleshoot things as well, because that's definitely something you're going to need a tool to help you out with. All right. So this is also an example of just a ACL policy you might have for a basic job runner. So we have some examples for these kind of roles, like I said, and they just kind of offer you a starting point if you need help with setting up those ACLs. So that's all we'll cover for ACLs for today. We'll also take a look at our key storage, though. This is an important feature. This provides you a secure way to provide access to your remote environments. So definitely a concern for a lot of people if we're running those automated actions on our remote servers is security. We want to make sure that those keys and passwords are stored and encrypted in the database. And when you add them to Process Automation, that's exactly what happens. They're stored in that encrypted database so that they can be used without being read or accessed directly by a user. So just as an example to find that, once again, that cog, key storage is the first one there. So if I add a key here, that'll store it right within the database, and then it can be used in your jobs without even being able to read it. I saw a raised hand there, so if you have a question, feel free to post it in the chat here. All right, so our last security feature we'll touch on here is runners. And runners are basically another feature that are primarily used with Runbook Automation, the cloud offering, in order to allow access to your secure environments. So you may have firewalls or other security on your existing infrastructure, which makes it difficult to allow automated tools to access to run code or other actions on them. With runners, rather than allowing a Runbook Automation direct access to your nodes, instead, you install a small piece of Runbook Automation directly on those remote servers. That's the runner. And these runners will now periodically pull out to the Runbook Automation server, fetching any jobs that it needs to run. So it's just a small amount of technical wizardry that removes the need for opening ports or allowing direct access to your application servers. If you're looking for how to find runners, once again, that cog there, we go to runner management. Now I can just hit create runner there. And we just have to give it a name and a description. We can choose which projects it's associated with. And that's it. Now I can download it and install it on my remote server. So I'll go ahead and delete that one. Oops, that is not the right one. But a pretty simple example of how you'd be able to set that up. And we have some documentation as well linked to in there to help you out with that. So runners have more features as well that can be used even outside of security concerns, but we won't get too deep into them for today's training. All right, so that's all we have for today's session, actually. So if you'd like to leave us some feedback, you can feel free to use this QR code or our survey link, which I'll post in the chat here. Oops, I'll post it to everyone. So if you want to provide us any feedback on this session or any tips for future ones, feel free to fill that out. Otherwise, if you have process automation already, access to it, log in and try a Hello World job out, see if you can get that going. For the recording of this session and any more content, you can check out university.pagerduty.com. We'll put a link for you there as well. And we also have our knowledge base, technical videos, and if you need any other support, feel free to reach out to us at pdusupport@pagerduty.com. So thanks everyone for joining.